Hello Year 6 and welcome to your Monday literacy video. Hope you've all had a lovely half term. We are going back to doing some writing work today. So we're back in our writing book. So make sure you've got this one for today. Just remember we're doing writing on a Monday, a Wednesday and a Friday. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays are for reading. Okay? So your learning question for today then is, can I show an understanding of formal and informal writing? Okay, and we're doing pages 9 and 10 and then a little tiny bit of page 11. Okay, so before we even get started on the work in our book, I want to go over with you what formal and informal language is and how we can spot it. Okay, and when we use formal and informal language as well, because we use them at different times. So let's have a look. So formal then is using a serious tone, okay, whereas informal is using a chatty tone, okay. So this means then serious, probably when you're speaking to somebody that's quite important, okay, it's about something that's probably quite serious, whereas this would be when you're maybe speaking to a friend or a family member, okay. Formal language then uses correct grammar and punctuation. Okay, so all of your grammar is correct. You've got full stops in all the correct places. You've got all your commas in the correct places, all your capital letters in the correct places. Whereas informal then, you could use sort of text language and slang. So you don't necessarily have to speak properly if you're speaking to a friend. Okay, and then formal language uses correct vocabulary, whereas informal you can use contractions. So that's like couldn't instead of could not, shouldn't. So for example, if you were writing an informal text, you could say can't, but if you were writing a formal letter, you would have to say cannot. Yeah, not the shortened version. And you can't use abbreviations in formal, but you can in informal. For example, TV is short for television. So if you were writing a formal letter, you would say television, whereas if you were writing a text to a friend, you could say TV. Okay, so let's have a look at this together. And this will help you. You apply what we do on here, and this will help you with your work in your book. So we've got to sort these words and phrases into the correct place in the table, and this is very similar to your first question on page 9. Okay, so once we've done this, you might want to pause the video and then have a go at question 1. So let's have a look then. So we've got informal. This is our informal column because this is a text message to a friend, and then our formal column is a letter to a head teacher. Okay. So you've got to read these words and phrases and have a think whether you'd say it in a text message to a friend or whether you'd write it in a letter to a head teacher. So let's have a look. So the first one then is wicked. Okay, if you were writing a letter to Mrs. Beckett, you certainly wouldn't be saying wicked, would you? You'd be saying that in a text message to a friend. So I'll pop that one over there. That's informal. It has come to my attention that. I don't think you'd say that in a text message, would you? So that's going to be formal. Okay, you'd say that in a letter to a head teacher. So that's the start of a sentence like, it has come to my attention that there is lots of litter on the school grounds. Yeah? Dear Mr. Slankett. So that's definitely the start of a letter, isn't it? You wouldn't start a text message like that, would you? Cheers. So that's another word for thank you. So that's an informal word for thank you. So that'd go in your text message side. Awesome. Again, that's a bit like wicked. That'd go in the text message side. That's informal, isn't it? As a result. Okay, so that's a conjunction that you could use in a sentence. So you could say something like, people have been dropping lots of litter. As a result, the school grounds look very untidy. Okay, so that would go in your letter. Okay, that's formal language. It is my opinion that. Okay, that would be formal, wouldn't it? You wouldn't say that in a text message. Buzzing. That would go in text message, wouldn't it? That's definitely informal. That's definitely something you would say to a friend. Are you for real? Okay, you wouldn't say that to Mrs. Beckett, would you? So you'd say that in a text message to a friend. A great deal of litter would be letter to head teacher. And then wanna go, wanna has been shortened, so it's shortened from I want to go. Okay, so because it's been shortened, it would have to be informal, so it would go in that side. Right, let's check if we are correct. Yes, 11 out of 11, brilliant. Okay, have a look at this one. So this says, select the words or phrases that you would not expect to see in a formal letter. So this is very similar to what you've got to do on page 10 in question 3, but you've got to do it the other way round. So you've got to underline all the formal language, whereas we're going to underline the informal. Okay, so we've got to have a look and see what's informal in this formal letter. So, hi, Mrs. Reynolds, I hope you're keeping well. If you were writing a formal letter, you wouldn't start it with hi, would you? You'd start it with dear Mrs. Reynolds. So let's click hi. I hope you're keeping well. This your is short for you are. Okay, so we need to click that because that's been shortened. That's a contraction. Apologies that it's taken so long for me to reply. We've got another contraction now with it. I've been dead busy of late. I've is a contraction because that's short for I have. So we'll click that one. I've been dead busy. You wouldn't say I've been dead busy, would you? You'd say I've been rather busy or I've been really busy. Okay, so we'll click that. At home, we're preparing for my baby brother to pop out. We've got another contraction there short for we are. And you wouldn't say pop out, would you? If you were writing a formal letter to somebody, you would say something like, at home, we're preparing for my baby brother to arrive. Okay? Have you travelled to any other countries since your Malaysian expedition last year? I think that sentence is fine. It's quite formal. I hope to hear back from you in the not too distant future. I think hear back is quite formal. Okay, you'd say something like, I hope to receive a reply from you soon. Okay, let's have a look. Yes, all correct. 10 out of 10. Lovely. Okay, right. Let's have a look then at your work for today. So, turn to page 9, and this is your first question. Okay, it says, the box at the bottom of the page contains some different ways of starting and finishing a letter. Work out which ones are formal and which ones are informal and write them in the correct column in the table. Okay, so you've got to read really carefully these different words and phrases at the bottom, and then you've got to write them in the correct side in your table. Okay, we've just done something like this very, very similar together. So I think you can have a go at that independently. Just make sure you read them carefully. Have a think. Would you say that to your head teacher? Yes, it's formal. Would you say it to your friend? Yes, it's informal. Okay, so just remember who you might be speaking to or who you might be writing a letter to. Okay, on your next page then, page 10, it says some of the sentences below are informal and others are formal. Colour the informal sentences in red and the formal sentences in blue. Okay, so let me just get my red pen ready. So remember, if you haven't got the two different colours, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. Just write me an I for informal or an F for formal. That's fine. So you need to read each one really, really carefully and decide whether you'd say that to a friend or whether you'd say that to somebody a bit more important. So we took tons of great photos. I think that's quite informal. You'd say that to a friend in a text message, wouldn't you? So informal is red. So make sure you've got the right colour. Okay, let's have a look at this middle one. We paused to enjoy some delicious snacks. I think that's quite formal. So I'm going to do that one in blue. Okay, so you carry on, have a read of them. Read it really, really carefully. Remember, if it's got contractions in it, then it's probably going to be informal. If it's written properly in Queen's Standard English, then it will be formal. Okay, and then you've got a little challenge to have a go at. It says rewrite all of the formal sentences to make them informal instead. Okay, so I do want you all to have a go at that. So in your purple book, so any that you have circled in blue, I want you to try and rewrite them so that they are informal. Okay, so have a think about how you would say that to a friend. Okay, your next question then is question 3, and it says, here is an extract from a letter to a friend. Underline all the examples of formal language. Okay, so that's all you've got to do for question 3, is go through and underline all of the informal language. But then, for the next part of question 3, so the top of page 11, you've got to rewrite the extract from the previous page, changing the language to make it informal. So that's your main independent task for today. Okay, I'm going to start it with you, get you started, but then I want you to carry on by yourself. So let's have a look at the beginning. My mother informed me that you will be visiting us next month. Okay, mother. You wouldn't say mother, would you? If you were speaking to a friend, you'd say my mum. Okay, so when you rewrite it, you can change that to mum. If you want to make little notes when you underline it around the edge, then that will help you when you rewrite it. That's absolutely fine. My mum informed me that you will be visiting us next month. Okay, you wouldn't say informed, would you? You'd say told. My mum told me that you will be visiting us next month. Okay? I am extremely excited about seeing you. I think you could change extremely because that's quite formal. Okay, have a think about what you could change it to. We can go on an excursion to the new theme park in my area. Okay, I think you could change excursion. That means a trip. Okay, so you could change that to trip, and you could change in my area. You could change that to something like near me. So we can go on a trip to the new theme park near me. Yeah? Okay, so I want you to carry on reading. Have a think about which words or phrases are formal. You might want to get rid of some completely because they've just been added in and they're not really necessary. That's fine. And then your main task then at the top of page 11 on here is to rewrite that passage, that letter, and change it so that it is all informal. Okay, so remember, informal is when we are speaking to a friend. Okay, so once you've written it, go back to the beginning, read through it all really, really carefully and think, is there any formal language in there? If there is, just try and edit it. Okay, so good luck with all of your literacy work for today. I look forward to seeing all of your photos later. Don't forget, so we haven't got word power today, so no word power work. You have got your new spellings to practice. So they have been sent out on Marvellous Me this morning and they are on Edshed. So make sure you log on there to practice those. And then don't forget to send me all of your photos and I will see you tomorrow.